Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise, untack compelling information, and, well, bring you the insights that matter. Today we're jumping headfirst into the, frankly, wild world of artificial intelligence. We've got a stack of fresh sources, company announcements, market analyses, even some intriguing hints about future tech.
That's right.
Our mission: to trace how AI is fundamentally challenging. Well, everything. Ideas about value, ownership, how we get information, maybe even reality itself.
It's a truly dynamic landscape right now. We'll be digging into, the shifting business models in AI, the very tricky waters of digital asset ownership, AI's big impact, sometimes a tough one on industries like news, and even get a little peek into the future, maybe AI-powered virtual worlds.
Exactly. It's a deep dive that really spans from immediate market shifts, stuff happening right now, to what could be the, the next frontier of how we interact with computers.
It's systemic change unfolding as we speak.
So, let's get started. Okay, first up, Perplexity. They've just announced this new plan, $200 a month. It's called Perplexity Max.
Right.
Now that sounds, well, incredibly steep, doesn't it? What exactly are power users getting for that kind of money?
Well, what's interesting, maybe the key observation here, is Perplexity isn't actually alone in this strategy. No, OpenAI was sort of an early mover with their own $200 a month plan, ChatGPT Pro. And now Google, Anthropic, Cursor, they've all followed suit just recently.
Okay, so it's a trend.
It's definitely a trend. It signals that these leading AI providers, they're looking to capitalize on their most engaged users, the real power users.
Right.
For Perplexity Max specifically, you get unlimited access to their spreadsheet and report tool, Labs, plus early access to new stuff like their upcoming AI browser, Comet. And Max subscribers also get priority access when Perplexity uses the absolute latest models, like OpenAI's O3 Pro or Claude Opus 4.
And they already have other plans, don't they? Like a $20 consumer plan, an enterprise one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the $20 a month Pro plan for consumers and a $40 a month per person Enterprise Pro. They're even planning an Enterprise Max tier eventually. So yeah, this Max is definitely for a specific need.
Okay, but let's connect this to the bigger picture. How are they actually doing financially? Because AI is expensive.
That's the crucial point. Despite their growth, the financials, they show a pretty significant challenge. They brought in roughly $34 million in revenue in 2024, mostly from that $20 Pro plan.
Okay.
But they burned through about $65 million in cash.
Wow. So losing almost double what they made.
Yeah. And most of that cash burn, reportedly, it's down to just heavy spending on cloud servers and, critically, buying access to those powerful AI models from others, like OpenAI and Anthropic.
So even with a reported ARR that's annual recurring revenue of $80 million back in January, that kind of cash burn is just huge.
It is.
Which raises a big question, right? How do they survive? Especially with giants like Google and its AI mode and OpenAI integrating search and maybe building its own browser. Is this Max plan enough?
Well, this is where that extra revenue from Max could be absolutely crucial. It's a bit of a high-stakes gamble, frankly. Perplexity's success might hinge on this balancing act, working with the AI providers they buy models from, while simultaneously trying to beat them in the AI search market. That extra cash could help them compete, maybe subsidize those high costs, fund new features.
Kind of a virtuous cycle. Power users fund innovation for everyone.
Potentially. And maybe it helps justify that reported $14 billion valuation they were talking about in those funding rounds. It's definitely a space to watch.
Okay, so from the economics of AI companies, let's pivot. Let's talk about something even murkier, perhaps. Who actually owns a piece of these AI giants?
Yeah.
Especially thinking about private companies like OpenAI. What does Robinhood's new offering in Europe actually mean for, the average person?
Well, the first absolutely critical question is, are these even real shares? And what's really striking is just how fast and clear OpenAI's reaction was. Robinhood announced they'd sell these tokenized shares of OpenAI, SpaceX, etc. in the EU. But OpenAI's official news account on X, they shut it down immediately. Quote, "These OpenAI tokens are not OpenAI equity."
Just flat out denied it.
Completely. Said they didn't partner, weren't involved, don't endorse it. And, crucially, any transfer of actual OpenAI equity needs their approval, which wasn't given.
That's a really strong disavowal. It sounds like a potential legal mess. What's Robinhood's angle here? How are they explaining this?
Well, yeah. Robinhood spokesperson called it a limited giveaway. The idea, they say, is to give retail investors indirect exposure
Indirect.
through Robinhood's stake in something called a special purpose vehicle, or SPV.
An SPV, okay.
And Vlad Tenev, Robinhood CEO, he posted on X too. He admitted, yeah, it is true that they aren't technically equity, but argued the tokens still give people exposure. He even hinted this is just the start, planting a seed for a bigger tokenization revolution.
Okay, hang on. Let's unpack this. An SPV, tokenized contracts. What does that actually mean for an everyday investor looking at this? What's the real difference? And maybe what's the risk?
Yeah, it's vital people understand this distinction. It's not direct ownership. Robinhood's own help pages state that when you buy these tokens, you're not buying the stock itself.
Okay.
You're buying a tokenized contract that tracks the price, recorded on a blockchain. The SPV is just a separate company, a legal shell, that owns the actual shares.
So you own a token linked to a company that owns the shares.
Exactly. Indirect exposure. And while the token price is supposed to track the shares in the SPV, those SPV share prices can actually differ from the price of a real share if it were trading.
Huh. So it's not a perfect match.
Not necessarily. And the worst case scenario for an investor, you think you're buying into OpenAI directly, but you actually have something with extra layers of risk, maybe limited ways to sell it, and none of the usual shareholder rights.
Right, like voting rights or dividends.
Yeah.
If they ever happen.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is why private companies often push back hard. Remember Figure AI, the robotics company? They sent cease and desist letters over similar things. Companies don't want others influencing their valuation or implying they've approved share sales when they haven't. It's very murky, potentially risky for retail folks.
Well, you sound like buyer beware. Okay, let's shift gears again. Moving from digital assets to how AI is shaking up more traditional industries. And one industry really feeling the ground move is news publishing. It seems like AI is, I don't know, a double-edged sword for them, new possibilities, but also cutting off old lifelines.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the data, particularly from SimilarWeb, it paints a really stark picture of this shift.
How so?
Well, since Google rolled out its AI overviews back in May 2024, the number of news searches that end right there with no click-through to an actual news website, that's jumped significantly.
Oh, wow.
It went from about 56% to nearly 69% by May 2025. That's a huge change in user behavior. People are writing summaries from AI, not clicking the links.
69% don't click through.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally changing the value proposition of search for news, isn't it?
Exactly. It's not just about traffic anymore. And, unsurprisingly, organic traffic from search, it's plummeted. From a peak over 2.3 billion visits in mid-2024, down to under 1.7 billion now.
That is a staggering decline, like a massive highway losing a huge chunk of its traffic overnight. But here's where it gets kind of weird, right? I heard ChatGPT referrals are actually growing. Is that helping at all?
It is weird, yeah. News-related prompts in ChatGPT, they grew 212% from January 24 to May 25.
Huge growth.
And referrals from ChatGPT to news publishers, they saw a 25x increase, jumped from under 1 million between Jan and May 24 to over 25 million for the same period in 25.
25 million referrals. That sounds like a lot, but compared to the billions lost from search.
Exactly. You have to look at the bigger picture. That increase, while impressive on its own, it's nowhere near enough to offset those massive drops in organic search traffic.
So what does this mean for publishers? Good SEO, high search rank. That doesn't guarantee clicks anymore.
It seems like it doesn't deliver the same value, no. Search rank just isn't translating into website traffic the way it used to. It's an existential threat, really, to the traditional ad-supported news model.
Yeah, if you're running a news outlet, especially a smaller local one, this isn't just a challenge. It feels like a crisis. Are some sites doing better with these AI referrals than others?
Some are adapting, yeah. Sites seeing the biggest bumps in ChatGPT referral traffic include Reuters up almost 9% year over year, the NY Post up over 7%, Business Insider up 6.5%.
Interesting. What about the New York Times? They're suing OpenAI, right?
Right. And interestingly, they're seeing far fewer ChatGPT referrals. Only about a 3.1% increase, still in the top 10 sites getting traffic, but much lower growth.
Huh. And what kind of news are people looking for via ChatGPT?
Right now, it seems to be mostly stocks, finance, sports, kind of reactive information. But we are seeing growth in other areas like politics, the economy, weather. That might signal a shift towards maybe deeper engagement on issues via AI, not just quick facts.
And ChatGPT itself is just exploding, right?
Yeah.
User base growing fast.
Absolutely. App users more than doubled, website visitors up 52% in the last 6 months alone.
So, okay, what's the end game for news publishers here?
Mm.
How do they survive this massive shift? Are there any real solutions emerging, or is it just adapt or disappear?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Sustainability. Solutions
Yeah.
are, well, they're few and far between right now.
Yeah.
Google did launch something called OfferWall. It lets publishers using Google Ad Manager try things beyond just ads like micropayments or asking for newsletter signups, trying to find non-traffic dependent income.
But is it enough? We're seeing layoffs, shutdowns.
Sadly, yes. Many news orgs have already made deep cuts or closed entirely. Even Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, acknowledged the pain. He said in an interview, basically, yeah, some knobs will go away, whole categories might disappear. And while it might be good for society overall, it's incredibly painful for those affected. He admitted there is going to be real pain here.
Yeah, real pain indeed. Okay, let's end on something a bit more futuristic, maybe even playful.
All right.
This is where it gets really interesting, potentially mind-bending. Could we actually be playing games generated by AI soon? Like using Google's Veo 3 model. Some recent posts from Google execs seem to be hinting at it pretty strongly.
Yeah, this is fascinating. The hints are subtle but telling. Demis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind,
Right.
someone asked him about playable world models and Veo 3 videos, and he replied, now, wouldn't that be something kind of playful, but yeah.
And someone else from Google chimed in.
Yeah, Logan Kilpatrick, who leads product for Google's AI studio, he just posted 4 zipped lip emojis.
Okay, that's not subtle. That definitely suggests something's cooking.
It certainly hints at something significant being developed behind the scenes, doesn't it?
So help me understand the difference here. What makes a video-generating model like Veo 3 different from a world model that could actually create playable experiences? It sounds like a big leap.
It is a big leap. Think of it like this. A world model isn't just making a video. It's simulating the actual physics and dynamics of an environment.
Okay.
It allows an AI agent, or maybe a player, to predict how the world will change based on actions. It's interactive simulation.
Right, cause and effect.
Exactly. Whereas video generation models like Veo 3 are primarily focused on synthesizing realistic video sequences. They create a convincing output, but it's generally passive. It's not designed for that deep interaction needed for a game.
Gotcha. And Google's already working on these world models.
Oh, yeah. They've been laying the groundwork. They plan to turn Gemini 2.5 Pro, that's their big multimodal model that understands text, images, video, all sorts of stuff, into a world model that simulates parts of the brain. DeepMind also showed off Genie 2, a model that can supposedly generate an endless variety of playable 2D worlds. And they're even forming a new dedicated team just for AI world simulation.
Wow. So this isn't just some side project. And are others working on this too? Or is it just Google?
No, definitely not just Google. AI pioneer Fei Lai launched a startup called World Labs last year. They've built an AI that generates game-like 3D scenes from just a single image. The race is definitely on.
Okay, so if Veo 3 isn't a full world model yet, what can it actually do right now? What are its current strengths?
Well, Veo 3 is still in public preview. Remember, it can create video and it can create audio to match. Speech, soundtrack, sound effects.
Impressive.
And it creates really realistic movement because it simulates real-world physics to some extent. So while it can't generate a fully interactive game world on its own, it could absolutely be used for things in games, like creating stunning cinematic cutscenes, game trailers, maybe rapidly prototyping narrative ideas visually.
Okay, so more for the storytelling and visual elements.
For now, yes. The big challenge is that Veo 3 is still what we'd call a passive output model. To create truly playable worlds, it, or maybe a future Veo 4 or 5, would need to become more of an active, interactive simulator that can predict and react in real time.
So what does this all mean for actually making video games? It sounds like there's still a pretty big gap to bridge before AI is just generating entire playable experiences on demand.
There is. The real bottleneck in game production isn't just making pretty pictures. It's achieving that real-time, consistent, and controllable simulation. You need the game world to react logically and instantly to the player.
Yeah. Can't have the physics suddenly break down.
Exactly. That's why it probably makes sense to think about a hybrid approach from Google in the future, maybe leveraging Veo for its amazing visual fidelity and cutscenes, and something like Genie for generating the actual interactive parts of the world.
Combining the strengths.
Potentially. And they'll be competing hard with Microsoft, startups like Scenario, Runway, Pika, and eventually at OpenAI's Sora video model too, whenever that fully arrives.
It's a crowded field.
It is. But given Google's clear moves towards world models, plus their history of using their deep pockets and huge distribution network, well, competitors would be very wise to keep a close eye on them. The potential to completely redefine how games are made is immense.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground today. A real deep dive
Yeah.
from, those high-stakes premium AI plans
Yeah.
and the really complex questions around digital asset ownership
Hmm.
to the huge impact AI is having on news publishers and even catching a glimpse of this incredible future with AI-generated playable worlds.
It really underscores how AI isn't just another tool, is it? It's this rapidly evolving ecosystem. It's redefining business, reshaping how we get information, pushing boundaries in creativity and interaction.
Yeah.
It really demands constant attention, critical thinking, and adaptation from all of us, really.
Absolutely. What we've discussed today, Perplexity's big bet, the confusion over Robinhood's tokens, the news industry's struggle, Google's hints at playable worlds, it all points to one powerful truth, I think. AI isn't just changing what we do, it's fundamentally reshaping how we interact with value, with information, maybe even with reality itself.
The fundamental shift.
So the question to leave you with is, how will these systemic shifts shape your relationship with information, with digital experiences in the years ahead?